The heart of Greenfield. Greenfield was a village unlike any other. It was a place where neighbors shared their harvests, children played freely, and everyone knew each other by name. It was a village built on trust, where honesty was more valuable than gold. And at the heart of it all was Ethan. Ethan was not the wealthiest man in Greenfield, nor the most powerful, but he was its most sincere and dedicated son. He had grown up in the village, watching his father and grandfather toil in the fields, always believing that hard work and unity would lead to a better future. As an adult, Ethan carried forward their legacy. He spent his days working not only on his own land, but also helping others. When an elderly farmer struggled to plow his field, Ethan was there. When a young mother needed firewood, Ethan chopped it for her. When children wanted to learn to read, Ethan took it upon himself to teach them. His dream was simple: to see Greenfield thrive, to ensure that no family ever went hungry, and to build a village so strong that no storm, drought, or hardship could shake it. But even the strongest bonds can be tested, and soon, Greenfield would face a challenge that would shake its very foundation: opportunity and the seeds of doubt. One morning, the village of Greenfield welcomed an unexpected guest, a well-dressed, middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a calculating mind. His name was Mr. Holden, a wealthy businessman who had built a fortune investing in agricultural projects. Standing in the village square, surrounded by eager villagers, Mr. Holden cleared his throat. "I have traveled to many villages," he said, his voice carrying authority. "But Greenfield stands out. I see hard-working people, rich land, and great potential. I wish to help Greenfield grow into a model village." The villagers exchanged hopeful glances. "What do you mean by help, sir?" asked Samuel, one of the elders. "I am prepared to invest a substantial sum of money, enough to develop infrastructure, improve irrigation, and create a sustainable economy," Mr. Holden replied. Gasps of excitement rippled through the crowd. Development meant progress: better roads, better farms, and a better future for their children. "There is one condition," Mr. Holden continued. "The funds must be managed wisely. I need someone responsible, someone with integrity to oversee these projects." Without hesitation, the villagers turned to Ethan. "He's the most honest among us," one woman said. "No one works harder for Greenfield than Ethan," another added. Ethan was taken aback. "I am honored," he said humbly, "but this is a great responsibility. I will not take it lightly." Mr. Holden nodded. "That's why you are the right man for the job." The businessman provided detailed contracts, outlining how the funds should be allocated. The money was to be used specifically for 3 projects. 1. A new irrigation system, ensuring Greenfield could sustain farming even in dry seasons. 2. Road expansion, to connect Greenfield to nearby markets, increasing trade. 3. A community marketplace, a space for villagers to sell produce and handicrafts. Holden's first installment of funding, a generous 100 gold coins, was deposited into a locked chest to be used solely for these projects. He assured more would come once progress was visible. The villagers cheered, excited for the future. But in the shadows, envy and doubt began to take root, a village divided. At first, Ethan worked tirelessly. He consulted experts, planned carefully, and ensured every gold coin was accounted for. He kept records, detailing where the money was being used. But as days passed, whispers turned to doubts. Why does Ethan get to control the funds? Marcus, a farmer with leadership ambitions, grumbled. What if he's keeping a share for himself? He's never had so much money in his hands before, another villager agreed. How do we know he's using it all for the village? A group of villagers began holding private meetings, questioning why they had given Ethan sole authority. They demanded transparency, insisting on evidence of every coin spent. When Ethan showed them his records, they only grew more suspicious. "He writes what he wants in those ledgers," Marcus sneered. Who's checking if the money is really being spent on the projects? The doubts turned into accusations. Some villagers refused to contribute labor to the irrigation project unless Ethan proved his honesty. The village elders, once his biggest supporters, hesitated. "Ethan," Samuel said carefully, "perhaps we should pause spending until we can verify everything." "But the irrigation system is halfway done," Ethan protested. "Stopping now will ruin the work." "We must be sure," another elder said. Ethan felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. He had never taken a coin for himself, but how do you prove your honesty when doubt has already spread? Ethan's silent sacrifice. The development projects were halted. The gold coins sat untouched in the village treasury, locked away as villagers debated and accused. But Ethan did not argue. Instead, he withdrew his own life savings. A modest 15 gold coins he had saved over the years from selling extra harvests and repairing tools. With no laborers willing to work under him, Ethan started alone. Under the scorching sun, he dug trenches for the irrigation system. His hands, once calloused from farming, grew blistered and sore. The villagers watched but did not help. "He's just trying to prove his innocence," Marcus scoffed. But Ethan did not stop. He worked tirelessly, day after day. Slowly, a few villagers, those who still believed in him, joined him. Then more. After weeks of sacrifice, the irrigation system was completed without using a single coin from Holden's funds. The storm and the revelation. Just as Greenfield began to heal, nature tested them once more. A severe drought hit the region, leaving many villages struggling. But Greenfield had water, thanks to the irrigation system Ethan had built. Neighboring villagers came seeking help, and despite everything, Ethan insisted they share their resources. It was in that moment that the villagers of Greenfield truly saw the depth of Ethan's character. One by one, those who had doubted him came forward. Marcus, the man who had led the opposition, stood before Ethan with tears in his eyes. "I was wrong. I let jealousy cloud my judgment. You never betrayed us, Ethan. We betrayed you." Ethan smiled, though his eyes were filled with emotion. "A village is a family," he said. "Families have disagreements, but true bonds are never broken." That night, the villagers held a feast, not just in celebration, but in gratitude. They honored Ethan, not just as a leader, but as a brother. Mr. Holden returns. When Mr. Holden returned months later to check on the progress, he expected reports filled with excuses and unfinished projects. Instead, he found a thriving village. He was stunned to learn that Ethan had completed the irrigation system without touching the funds. "You used your own money?" Mr. Holden asked, incredulous. Ethan nodded. "I could not wait while my people suffered." The businessman was silent for a moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he doubled his original investment. "You are a rare man, Ethan," he said. "Most would have taken the easy path, argued, fought, or abandoned the project. But you did what was right." This time, the villagers insisted that Ethan continue to manage the funds, with full trust and support. A village reborn. With trust restored and the villagers united once more, Greenfield entered a new era of prosperity. The doubts that had once divided them were now a lesson, a reminder that true integrity shines through actions, not words. Under Ethan's guidance, the projects funded by Mr. Holden's investment moved forward swiftly. But this time, there was no hesitation. The villagers, once skeptical, now worked together with renewed faith and enthusiasm. The completion of the irrigation system. Although Ethan had completed the initial irrigation system using his own money and labor, it needed further expansion. With the funds now fully accessible, the villagers worked tirelessly to extend the water channels, ensuring that every field in Greenfield had a steady water supply. Farmers who had once feared losing their crops now had lush, thriving fields. I used to worry if we'd have enough water for the next season, an elderly farmer said. Now I can rest easy knowing our land will never run dry. For the first time in years, there was no fear of drought. Neighboring villages, still struggling, began to visit Greenfield to learn from their success. Ethan welcomed them with open arms, teaching them how to build similar systems. No village should suffer when we can help one another, he said. The road to opportunity. The next major project was the road expansion. Previously, the road to Greenfield was narrow and filled with potholes, making travel difficult and trade nearly impossible. Merchants often avoided the village, choosing larger, more accessible towns instead. But now, with proper funding and labor, the villagers widened and paved the road. Stones were laid carefully, wooden bridges reinforced, and pathways cleared. The transformation was remarkable. When the road was completed, caravans and traders from distant towns began arriving in Greenfield, bringing with them new goods, fabrics, and tools. A merchant named Gregory, impressed by the village's progress, offered fairer prices for their crops. I used to avoid this village because of the poor roads, he admitted. Now I see Greenfield becoming a center of trade. With better trade routes, Greenfield's economy flourished. Farmers earned higher prices for their produce, artisans found new buyers for their crafts, and the village, once isolated, became a hub of commerce. The marketplace of growth. Perhaps the most exciting project was the community marketplace, a space where villagers could sell their goods, share their talents, and build small businesses. Ethan and the villagers designed a central square, complete with wooden stalls, shaded seating areas, and a small storage house for surplus goods. When the marketplace opened, it was a sight to behold. Farmers proudly displayed fresh fruits, vegetables, and grains. Weavers and tailors showcased handmade fabrics and garments. Carpenters and blacksmiths sold tools, furniture, and decorative pieces. Women prepared baked bread, dairy products, and herbal remedies for sale. The village was no longer dependent on outside traders alone. They had built a self-sustaining economy. One young woman, Elise, who had struggled to make a living, now sold her beautifully woven baskets in the marketplace. I never imagined I could earn my own money, she said, tears in her eyes. Now I can support my family. The marketplace became more than just a place of trade. It became a symbol of growth, resilience, and unity. A festival of gratitude. To celebrate their rebirth, the villagers organized a grand festival, the first of its kind in Greenfield's history. They decorated the village with colorful banners, flowers, and lanterns. Musicians played joyful tunes, and the air was filled with the aroma of delicious food being prepared. At the heart of the festival, Ethan stood before the villagers. "This is not my achievement," he said humbly. "This is the strength of Greenfield, of people who believed, worked together, and overcame their doubts. Today, we are more than just a village. We are a family." Mr. Holden, who had returned to witness the transformation, was deeply moved. "You have not just built roads and markets," he told Ethan. "You have built a legacy. Greenfield will be known far and wide as a model of honesty, resilience, and unity." To everyone's surprise, he offered another investment, not as charity, but as a partnership, ensuring Greenfield's continued growth for years to come. Ethan's legacy. Years later, Greenfield continued to flourish. The village, once small and struggling, became a prosperous community. Other villages learned from Greenfield, adopting similar irrigation systems and economic models. But more than its prosperity, Greenfield became known for something greater, its unbreakable spirit. And at the heart of every story, Ethan's name lived on. Not as a ruler, but as a man who led by example. For generations, parents told their children about the man who never sought power, never kept riches for himself, and never wavered in his belief that a village is strongest when its people stand together. Greenfield was reborn, and its heart would forever beat with the spirit of trust, unity, and perseverance.